again, I just want to say thank you all for coming. We have a little presentation about where we've been and how we came to where we are today and where we're hoping to go in the future. So since we've been in existence since 1990, and we've been very instrumental in helping polio survivors find information, resources, and support throughout those years, with all the technological advances. Joan Swain, who's here today, has been a very, very important part. She's really been with us since the beginning and throughout all of these years, and she's been very instrumental in helping us communicate with our members and with other advocates around the country and around the world. So just to give you an idea of how far we've come, Joan is going to tell you a little bit about how we started, more importantly, who we started with, and then we'll talk a little bit about where we're going. Joan?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Wasn't that a marvelous meal? Am I close enough now? Do you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. As Lottie has mentioned, I've been a member of the Raritan Valley Post-Polio Support Group since its creation by Joyce Hauser in 1987, and I'm one of the founders of the New Jersey Polio Network. As the editor of newsletters for both organizations, I'll try to give you a picture of how this all came to be. The support groups, the pivotal 1990 conference, and the statewide network that has provided polio survivors with critical and updated information about PPS for over 25 years, and have provided financial aid to survivors through 2 funds. Post-polio syndrome went public in the 1990s. Something was happening to polio survivors. We were noticing new weakness and pain in muscles, unaccustomed fatigue, respiratory problems. Was the dreaded polio coming back? I was one of those wondering those fearsome questions. Then one Sunday morning, I opened the New York Times, and on the cover of the magazine section was Dr. Laurel Halstead. His featured article on post-polio, which he had observed and studied in his clinical work, and he was also a survivor himself, brought the reality of PPS to the public. My next contact with PPS was an article in the local paper in 1987. Joyce Hauser, a second-grade teacher from Bridgewater, was starting a support group for polio survivors. I immediately called the number listed in the article and spoke with Joyce. It seems we both had polio the summer of 1949. May I go, or is that an order? Are we okay? Oh, all right, I'm sorry. It seems we both had polio the summer of 1949 and landed in the same hospital in Plainfield just weeks apart. She had gone, it turned out, to high school with my brother, and to top it off, she knew a friend I had made while in the rehab hospital. With so many coincidences, we were destined to become fast friends and co-workers. The group, soon named the Raritan Valley Group, met at the Somerset County Library in Bridgewater. It was an energetic group that included Lois and Bill Frezza, who filled many roles and still facilitate our meetings. That's Lois over there. Is Bill? No, okay. Bill's hiding. Jean Brogdon, a recent AT&T management retiree who was an early supporter of the idea of a statewide network. And I was working in the sales and marketing department at a nearby pharmaceutical company and offered to start a newsletter. Need I say, Joyce was full of ideas that she had heard at a Ginny conference earlier in the year. Ginny was an organization started by Ginny Laurie out in St. Louis and led by Joan Headley. They acted as a coordinating group and central source of information about post-polio syndrome. Today, they are known as Post-Polio Health, or PHI, PHI, and are international leaders on the subject. The first issue of the Raritan Valley newsletter, called Newsline, was published March 1988, and the September 2017 issue is numbered Volume 30, Number 6, and that's roughly 180 issues. Watch out what you volunteer for. Some other early activities of the Raritan Valley Group include these. In May 1989, a PPS workshop was held, led by Dick Bruno and Nancy Frick. I know many of you know those names well. Dr. Stuart Hirsch of Bridgewater spoke at one of our meetings about PPS, and over 50 people attended. Joyce received over 50 phone calls after an AP story about PPS appeared in the newspapers. Then an NPR, National Public Radio, reporter interviewed Jean, Joyce, and me for a 1.5-hour polio survivor story that was heard on PBS as far away as Japan. Yes, we actually did hear from a woman who said her son had called her to tell her that he had heard this in Japan. So we really went worldwide. All of the growing interest and information about post-polio and the group's own activity encouraged us to present a conference about PPS. A statewide polio group was formed to bring polio support groups together and to sponsor the state's first polio conference. A date was set for October 13th, 1990. That's just 3 years after the support group started, so you can see we were really in a hurry. We wanted to get a lot of news and information. In January 1990, conference committee heads were named, according to the Raritan Valley Newsline. Jean Brogdon was listed as conference coordinator. A committee of 20, including members from other New Jersey support groups, was later listed in a conference program, along with 5 groups of volunteers. In February, sponsors were announced. Herx Roussel Pharmaceuticals was one. That's where I worked. Letterly Laboratories, March of Dimes of Central New Jersey Easter Seals, and Roche Pharmaceuticals. In each subsequent year, all 3 New Jersey Polio March of Dimes organizations have contributed. In March 1990, the faculty of 8 was announced, which included 5 medical doctors. Among them were Dr. John Bach, who has appeared recently as a speaker with the organization, and Dr. Stuart Hirsch, who for many years was the medical director for the Raritan Valley Group, and Ginny leader Joan Headley, who is incidentally retiring this fall from her responsibilities as the leader of PHI. Accreditation was arranged for MDs and pharmacists to provide continuing education credit. In August, over 4,000 conference announcements went out to primary care doctors and members of the New Jersey Pharmaceutical Association. Press releases were also sent then. By a week before the conference, we had registered a sellout crowd of 350 people, even after seats were added. But there were no additional seats, and anyone who came to the door was out of luck. On October 13th, 1990, the New Jersey Conference on the Late Effects of Polio was presented at the Somerset Marriott Hotel by the Post-Polio Support Groups of New Jersey from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. The conference folder was amazing, and I had to bring along my copy. This was it, and it was full of information and things that the people needed to know and could know, and didn't have any, that hadn't been known, because we kind of pulled it all together in one place. There was an announcement brochure, a poster, a press release and case histories, medical alert card, order form for audio and videotapes. You could buy one or all of them. A copy of the proclamation made by Governor Florio of Post-Polio Awareness Week. Various related information pieces, and my favorite, a pad. And look at this, with a logo and everything.
Wow.
And that's on every page, every page. So this was done with under the guise of pharmaceutical industry, so they were a little fancier than we were. But there was a great deal of information that people took away with them. Never again, though, did we ever have such an opulent folder, and I'm sure you've noticed that if you compare today's. The conference was indeed a great success and a motivator for our next project. 4 months later, on February of 1991, the statewide polio group announced a strategy meeting to discuss creating a polio network. In August 1991, the first event by the group took place, a picnic at Berkeley Island County Park, hosted by the Shore Group, and it was great fun. The officers were elected at an October meeting in 1991. This is just a year after our conference. And elected were Jean Brogdon from Raritan Valley as president. Vice president was Dorothy McDowell from the Shore Group. Incidentally, Dorothy wrote the ADA column for the newsletter for a number of years. Secretary was Ruth Malenko from Central Jersey. She was an early editor of the state newsletter. And as treasurer was Joyce Hauser, who was leader of the Raritan Valley Group. Later presidents are Gene Sapus from Bergen County, Arthur Siegfried from Raritan Valley, Lee Bakir from Raritan Valley, and Lottie Esteban from Bergen County, and right here as our present president. In February of 1992, a statewide newsletter, New Jersey Polio Network newsletter, was inaugurated. Editors were Joe Rubin, Ruth Malenko, and me. In 1994, I became sole editor-in-chief until retiring from the position after the winter 2017 issue. And Jean Sapus served in all the time that she was president as executive editor, which involved the massive, many jobs, which was the whole list, keeping the list updated, the mailing list that is, getting the newsletter printed, and a number of other things. But she was a contributing writer often, as you know, those of you who have read the issues. Some other significant events that the Polio Network has undertaken are these. In February 1992, NJPN issued a 32-page directory of resources and services. It included our first directory of doctors recommended by polio survivors. We updated the doctors list a couple of times after that. In 1994, the Polio Searches On, an advertising campaign to recruit polio survivors in New Jersey, was undertaken. We had a member of the group who was in the advertising business, so he took charge of that. Here happened to have a poster. I'm sure none of you ever saw it. So, did you see it? Oh, good for you, Lottie. But that we tried to get in public places everywhere. And it says, the polio search is on. We're looking for the 30,000 polio survivors in New Jersey now at risk for post-polio syndrome. Symptoms include new muscle weakness, fatigue, and pain. If you or someone you know had polio, contact us for important information about diagnosis, treatment, and support. And then there's our address, and underneath there is it said meets at, and you had room to fill in a support group if there was one in the area. So we got responses from that, of course, but mostly our job had been, and as I mentioned in the first paragraph, was identifying people with post-polio syndrome and let them know that this was out there and that we were going to get news information about it out to all of those people, which was the major purpose of our newsletter. Gotta find my place now. By 1994, there were 12 post-polio support groups active in New Jersey. We now have 8. Jean Sapos replaced Jean Brogdon as president of NJPN in 1995. And no, your name didn't have to be Jean, that was just a chance. The Ruprecht Fund was started in 1996 and was instituted to help polio survivors fund costs related to PPS. In 2004, Lee Bakir created a website for NJPN, and he's now in the job of updating that and making it even more wonderful. So we can't wait, and interactive, I'm sure. Arthur Siegfried replaced Jean Sapos as president in 2005, and we changed the name from NJPM to PNNJ to improve recognition of the organization in alphabetical listings. New is the beginning of a whole lot of listings in New Jersey, so we decided polio was a much better way to start it, so we changed our name. In 2011, PNNJ received a resolution from the New Jersey Senate at the State House in Trenton announcing World Polio Day. PNNJ leaders attended and were photographed for a press release. Sadly, Arthur Siegfried died in 2011, and Jean Sapos took over as president. In 2012, the Joyce and Arthur Siegfried Memorial Fund was established to assist polio survivors with costs associated with braces and custom-made shoes. The rest is just things that we've been continuing through 2017. An annual concert. We have, this is the 28th, number 28. So those are all.
So my figures were wrong.
Yeah. And the publication of the Polio Network newsletter continued through winter of 2017. Lee Bakir filled a term as president, and Jean Sapos completed 10 years in the position prior to retiring. That happened because she had her original 5 years, and then she filled in after other people left twice. And so she did a total of 10 years and was a very, very fine president. And now our current president, and also very fine, is Lottie Esteban. So that's the thumbnail sketch of our past, and Lottie will now bring you up to date with a vision of the future.
All right.
Thank you, Joan. Before we continue, Joan, this is in recognition of all your years of service to us, and everything you've done is so much appreciated, and getting everything out. The other thing I want to say is a lot of you have asked about Jean Sapos and how she's doing. Although her health she's a little too frail to come running out to conferences, she is doing well. I speak to her, at least every 2 weeks, and she's still, pretty feisty, and we're doing well and sending her best to everybody. So I just want to talk a little bit about where we're headed as we're going into the future. Advances in technology have made it so much easier to communicate with other groups, other people who are doing wonderful. The Pennsylvania group is doing wonderful things with Rotary, and bringing the whole vaccine program to eliminate polio, and I think that is absolutely wonderful work, and they've really done a lot. John Manning Swain, our board member, has also done a lot to bring that vision to the forefront of thinking. The other thing is, there are so many groups doing one. There's a group in Boca that they specialize in traveling. There's a group in Arizona that is doing wonderful things, and there's a group in Colorado that does a retreat I think they do it every 2 years, or something like that. But I do get their newsletters, and I really want to concentrate more on trying to bring that. So I hope I have all of your email addresses, and as I'm going to contact these other groups. I've been in touch with Boca, I've been in touch with Pennsylvania, and we'll be hearing a lot more from them. And I'm really hoping to bring all of these different kinds of events, travel, retreats, camping, all that sort of thing back to New Jersey, so we can really move into the future and talk to other survivors, and in spite of whatever may be going on with our bodies, to enjoy our lives, and just know that there is life with post-polio and outside of post-polio. So thank you all so much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you at our next conference, whenever that may be. Thank you.